Hello, everyone. We are live following Notre Dame's 31-16 win over the USC Trojans. I'm Greg Ladke, joined by blueandgold.com resident coach Tim Hyde. Tim, it's Notre Dame's fourth straight win over USC, fifth straight at home. Brian Kelly now 8-3 against the Trojans, continuing to build on his own legacy at Notre Dame. But let's get right to the game. First off, just wanted your opening thought about the Notre Dame victory.
Awesome. I mean, seriously, anytime you beat USC, it's awesome. I mean, seriously, it was, for a 31-16 game, it felt like we were right back to the last second field goal type of an atmosphere again. So a little nerve wracking again, but that's the rivalry because this thing it felt like it was so close to turning into, the 2017 game of just boat racing them off the screen. There was a moment, I know I texted you and Mike, like, how is this thing not 28-0 in the second quarter and just gone and just, the game over, rolling away. But hey, you know what? But at the end of the day, it was both teams. SC's probably kicking itself for a few missed opportunities. Notre Dame obviously missed opportunities. You got the ball on the 4-yard line and you only get a field goal out of it. So back and forth. At the end of the day, huge win for Notre Dame. Great game. Start this second half as they get ready to march forward, moving on, and some tremendous individual performances overall as well today.
Yeah, I agree that it felt like Notre Dame should have been up even bigger, particularly in the first half. But statistically, just about the entire game, the teams were pretty even. I mean, look at USC finished with more total yardage. Rushing figures were, relatively the same. Notre Dame inched ahead towards the end there with a 170 to 125 yard advantage, but you couldn't tell from the game comparison stats over here on the right. The two teams were even for much of the game. So that being said, we're going to play a little bit of a game here. I'm just going to ask you quickly your offensive MVP for the game for the Irish and why.
Oh, for me, instantly he's right there in the stats. Kyren Williams. He's a tone setter. Just physical runs. Had a couple. He was a stud. What was he receiving? The leading receiver was 6 as well.
Yeah.
He was outstanding. Just the physicality, the way he cut it. SC had him on the line of scrimmage 6, 7, 8 times probably total in the game, and he wiggled around. There's one play, he got a 9-yard run, which is one of my favorite plays where, the guy just stuffs him. He gets out of it, one cut juke there and goes and gets 9 yards. He was a stud all night long. The one thing just real quick with Kyren, it goes back to that when you're on the 4-yard line, they had Diggs in. So was Kyren, were they giving him a break? How you not have him on the 4-yard line and go down and get a touchdown? But that's just a little sidebar there at the end. But Kyren Williams was a stud all game long.
It must have been he needed a break and his performance reminded me a little bit of Tony Jones Jr. in 2019. I think the Irish had injury trouble going into that game as well. So the Irish did not have Chris Tyree for tonight's game. And I think Tony Jones Jr. also had 25 carries in that game. He finished with more yardage than Kyren did tonight. I think he had the 170, 180 range, but kind of similar performances from those two players. I agree with you. I think that's an obvious choice for the offensive MVP. Kudos to the quarterbacks teaming up for 22 of 30 for 213 yards. That one interception by Jack Cohn we saw with the replay maybe should have been a catch for Kevin Austin. So
exactly. Simultaneous possession right there. Even though Chris Steele, had it, but same time offense had it as well. But go from there. Just real quick, Greg. Obviously, we mentioned Kyren Williams, going over 100 yards first time all season long. It feels like it's been a while. How about the O-line? Let's just take 10 seconds and say high five to the offensive line. All game long, you had 5 dudes going at it. First time all season, the same group out there just working and just playing its tail off. That was awesome to see tonight.
Well, we can give more than 10 seconds, and I know you're an offensive line guy. So let's talk specifically about Joe Alt and Andrew Kristofic on the left side. We talked coming into the game how it seems Notre Dame is settling in on their starting 5.
Oh, without a doubt. Those guys, I mean, there's a couple plays where those guys were just awesome. On the one big run that Kyron has, you go on the replay and Kristofic just pancakes his guy,
Mm.
which is awesome. And then a couple of the Alt, it was interesting. Alt did a little, type of an with the left tackle, sometimes when play goes away, instead of driving and him going to second level, he was kicking inside to protect the B gap a lot. And it was almost like it's what offensive tackles do on power. When powers are away, they protect inside and fan out some. He did a lot of that, which I thought was, that was a change which Notre Dame had not done at all this year. So that was a little technique change they did with him. I thought Alt had a couple really nice runs on Kyron's, but I think his biggest run where he cuts all the way back, Alt and Kristofic just are staying on their guys. The entire block there was, outstanding. Patterson probably had his best game. Lugg was solid there. Lugg had a great block there at the end where Williams got inside. No, I think it was on Buckner's touchdown, where Buckner got down in there on the QB power. And Madden, Madden fell a few times. There's one touchdown. He's rolling on the ground, but, as it goes, Madden's always in there. But other than that, hey, they went with their 5 and they played their tails off. Got another game of over 30 points, with a makeshift O-line, whatever you want to say about this group, they just, it was great to see. It really was.
Jim McCarthy, thanks for the super chat. Real quick, he says, great win, great content, guys. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the top performers. Tim, real quick, your defensive MVP. And I think I want to talk a little bit about, I know who you're going to pick, so go ahead.
Well, you know what? In defense was, I thought struggled a lot. I mean, SC, as you saw in the stats, had well over 400 yards today. And it felt like, Slovis there, basically 300 yards passing. I mean, London's a man amongst boys out there. He was just toying out there with guys. What did he finish? 15 catches.
15.
He must have had 20, 21 targets probably when it's all said and done.
20, yeah.
He's a stud.
I wanted to see him actually break that record. I wish they got him just one more pass.
Oh God! I mean, he's awesome. SC did a great job on the one seam route where they forced Bertrand to play once again tight end down the pike on the seam, just like Cincinnati did. You're surprised SC didn't go do that more often. But on defense, real quick. I mean, the player of the game, you got to give the 2 biggest plays, obviously, to Foskey.
Yeah,
2 sacks, the 2 strips. One led to an interception, then obviously Bracey there at the end got the fumble recovery. Defense, there was no dominant moments at all. I thought Bo Bauer played outstanding. He was very active. Drew White had curious to see his stats. He had a few really good runs 3 and less. I thought he played really well.
Yeah,
other than that, what's that?
I said 5 total tackles. And to your point about Bo Bauer, I'm pretty sure his 7 total tackles is the most he's had this year.
Oh, without a doubt. His one tackle for loss was outstanding in there as well. Yeah, he was good. Foskey, obviously, the 2 explosive plays that were just, massive, game changers, especially the big one with Bauer. Even though they only got 3 out of it, the momentum and things of that nature were just going. But defense was interesting. I'm really excited to go back and watch the film and really break down the D because, they were doing what they've done all year, 4-3. A lot of 3-3 at times, and then mixing in nickel, dime, a lot of 4-1 at times out there as well. So curious to see what they did because I thought SC's offensive line played its tails off. That was probably the best game they've played all season long, and they were really good. Not to give too much credit to USC, obviously, but seriously, I thought they played their tails off, and it showed obviously in the stats. Even though the numbers weren't down, that goes back to USC had some shots that were, they're going to be kicking themselves in some times where they didn't get any points as well.
Yeah, I think if coming into the game, if you told the USC coaches that Keontae Ingram was going to have 138 yards rushing, I think they're taking that and they're liking their chances then with Slovis and Drake London. First off, please hit like on our video, subscribe to our channel. You can ask us a question in the comments section. Of course, we are always happy with super chats as well. So feel free to put those in the chat column. I'm going to start with a question, Tim, and we talked about this a little bit during the game. Isaiah Foskey, there hasn't been a lot of talk about him with the NFL draft, but now he's among the nation's leaders in sacks. And you brought up, hey, this guy might be someone who's a first-day draft pick this year.
Well, I mean, how does he not leave? Seriously, he's been there 3 years. He's going to have a blowout junior year. He's going to end with, about 12, 13. He's up to 8 sacks. So you throw out the Navy game, there's going to be no sacks in that game. But Virginia throws the ball 60 times a game. UNC is going to chuck it all over the place. So he's going to be getting more sacks coming up here. So don't be surprised if he ends with 12, 14 sacks. I mean, how is he not going to go to the NFL? He's gonna test well. He's going to do all those things. And when you watch him, I mean, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, Ravens, all those teams that run the 3-4. He is the perfect outside backer in the NFL. So now I'm not his agent. I don't know who his agent is.
Yeah,
but
someone's going to be trying to call him. I mean,
oh gosh,
seriously,
he's had an outstanding season. He's explosive as could be. He's playing the rush today. He was playing the left side, the right side. He's playing the inside linebacker when they go to their 3-3 package, which I think Foskey's been outstanding in that. Do I want him to sit on the edge and rush every single play? Without a doubt. But he has shown a ton of ability to play multiple spots all over in that front seven.
I have a question here from Brooke Payne. I'm not sure if I agree with the premise, but we'll go ahead and ask it. How many times does Cone have to mess up or limit our offense before we go to Buckner full time?
Where did he mess up?
Yeah,
I thought Cone was outstanding. I mean, seriously, he did a lot of really good things. I mean, he was pretty sharp. I mean, once again, I've been talking about this for ages. When Notre Dame goes fast and they get a rhythm going, Jack Cone is pretty good.
Yeah,
he really is getting that ball out a lot. I thought in the third quarter they were a little stagnant. The opening drive. I mean, that's not Jack Cone's fault. The first play, they throw a smoke screen out there, a line pass right on the line to Lindsey, catches it 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's the call. Mm-hmm. So, that's not his fault. He threw some nice balls to Austin. I mean, my gosh, Austin's running in, catches one ball, he'll score an easy touchdown, he drops it.
Right.
He has another fade in the first quarter to Austin where their DB breaks it up, but Austin's right there to make that play. So I thought Jack Cone played a heck of a football game.
Yeah, you can see what happens when, as you said, Tim, there's tempo plus better protection too. I mean, USC had just 1 sack on the evening. It was from Drake Jackson, who, speaking of the NFL draft, is going to be a guy. So we'll add a question here from Jamie McNeil. Tell me, Chris, how does a running back be effective by stopping his run? That doesn't look like that was typed out right. But I'm going to ask you a question that
real quick. I see what he's saying. He's talking about the jump cuts. That's made famous by Le'Veon Bell, obviously at Michigan State, and his
I see.
His great seasons. He stops and he's pausing. Williams had some nice runs today, and once again, the O-line's not road grading people like they've done in the last couple of years. So he's just trying to find those little inside yards. And when he's getting 2-3, it don't seem like much, but it's positive. It's moving the pile a little bit and opens up other calls. So the USC kid, you look at Ingram today. Ingram had a lot of pause in his run and cut and made some inside cuts. That's how he had 130 plus yards today. I thought Ingram did it. So that's just
38. Yep.
That's the type of running back. If you got the ability to cut and make a quick decision, really in a millisecond, which both of those running backs today did for USC and obviously Kyren Williams.
Yeah, I get the question now. I mean, I see why it was asked, because early on in the game, it looked like he was trying to be patient and find the hole, and the holes just weren't there early on. But then his patience, I thought, paid off in the second half. So, I mean,
well, that's when he started jumping outside. He just started taking the ball to the perimeter and was going to go get yards. And he had some amazing, a couple of his best runs today were full on right, cut back to the left, alt, Christophic. There's one time Takis is just bashing his guy down and he's getting yards on his cutbacks.
Yep. What do you think about the freshman wide receivers? You had Lorenzo Styles, definitely a spark in the first half.
Yeah. Get that guy the ball, four or five more times a game. Seriously, he's explosive. But that goes back to the bye. You get these 6 games in. He's been in every game. He's got a little bit of touch. He's gotten on the field more and more from Florida State to now, a little bit more each game. He's gotten a couple little catches each game more and more. He's explosive as could be. There's no doubt about that. He's going to be dynamic. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, you could see. I mean, Notre Dame's losing Avery Davis, right? We know
Hmm.
that for sure coming into the year. I think one of the things that you're looking for in the second half is the development of at least one of the freshmen currently on the roster, where you feel like going into next year, he's going to be the type of player that can catch 30, 40 passes
Yep.
next season.
Well,
Um,
Davis can't come back. Everyone's got that COVID year,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
right?
But that would be year 6 for him. So
Hey,
you never know.
Crawford did it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And is Davis, does he want to move? Once again, I'm not an agent, but it's like, does he want to come back, be a second year team captain, play again, keep getting better each and every year? Because, what's his NFL future really going to be? Who knows?
Interesting point here, and I agree with Chris Ayers. I don't think they're as talented though, USC, particularly on defense, as they've been in the past years. Uh, even Drake, I know Drake Jackson's been kind of nicked up all year, but I didn't see a lot of suddenness from their linebackers or
Hmm.
their DBs today. Number 8 had a couple good breakups early on in the game, but I just and we talked about the statistics throughout the game; they were pretty even. It's just more the penalties. I think there were so many penalties on USC. Obviously, the mismanagement of the clock
Well, that was big. That
at the
was
end.
big right before halftime.
Yeah, they just showed some signs of like
They get
they have an
pumped.
interim coach. They've just
Yeah.
like I mean it's one of those. Here's the penalty number. SC had 9 penalties for
You know
65
what? But
yards.
most of those were in. It seemed like they had 4 or 5 of those in the fourth quarter alone.
Yeah,
So, I thought, SC started getting in the role, and real quick on Steele. I mean, Steele's a heck of a football player out
yeah.
of, St. John Bosco. He was a Florida signee. So the entire SEC recruited the living heck out of him, and he ended up coming back to SC. So he's a legitimate football player. Stewart, their other corner, is outstanding. SC's got some guys, but they've just been a mess lately. They really have. I mean, at the great SC teams are all about the line, right? Physical, big
Right.
physical lines. But yeah, they just haven't had that. And they don't. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they have a dominant linebacker whatsoever. But yeah, they definitely got some talent. There's just something in the water right now, and it's. I mean, they're all thinking. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they played their tails off tonight because it's Notre Dame. It's rival. I mean, they did. I mean, they brought it tonight. They really did. They played their tails off. When you're down 24-3, you could quit, relax, hang out, and they didn't. They get back-to-back touchdown drives, 70 plus yards, I think, on those. So, and real quick on Notre Dame's offense, I would love to see the drive chart because I mean, it seemed like Notre Dame would have 4 or 5 drives today of 70 plus yards, where they were
Yeah.
just
Here,
just moving. They were really efficient, which goes back to Jack Cohn at quarterback. I thought played a heck of a football game.
I'm pulling it up right now. The drive chart.
The drives.
Yeah, right here on the right. So
88
74,
yards.
70, 75, 80. So they have 5 drives, and
Yeah.
they didn't have a lot of drives overall. I mean, I think that's because they possessed the
Yep.
ball.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly. And you had the 75 yarder there when SC's within striking distance, and they go right down the field and kill 4 minutes off the clock and get a touchdown.
what do you think? Do you think USC? Did you see anything they were doing, Tim, with taking away Michael Mayer in the second half? I mean, he got off to a great start, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, for whatever reason, my rewind was not working a heck of a lot today, so I didn't
Yeah,
see much. But you know what? One of them, he got a big penalty on him, the
yeah,
big PI so you basically count that as a catch. I thought he had a solid night, and you got a guy who maybe still be nicked up. I mean, early in the
yeah.
game, Takis was rotating for him on the second drive already. Or I think it was the second drive. Takis was already coming in for him. So, they could say what they want. Mayer's obviously not 100% because they were rotating quite a bit early on to give Mayer a little bit of action, which goes back to the bye, which, the odds of Michael Mayer practicing one snap was probably 0. They probably just let him rest and get that groin healthy. So Mayer still had 5K. He's the best player, on the field for Notre Dame.
Oh,
I feel like every time he's out there, he's a stud.
yeah. He's gonna be a first round draft pick. I mean,
Well,
easy.
just think of that real quick. I know we sent the text real quick before we get into a few more of the questions. I mean, there's a lot of drafted dudes out. I mean,
Yeah,
Drake London is going to be a first rounder. I truly believe Foskey is going to be one of those. outside backers, that's just going to be a first round pick. Mayer is going to be a first round pick.
Mm.
And hey, what are we, 20 minutes into this? And we haven't mentioned probably the biggest story of the night.
Yeah, the injuries. I mean,
No Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
No Kyle Hamilton. And they win this game by 2 touchdowns. Hold SC 16 points. What last year against Sam Howell, what they hold him to? 17, I believe. So when he got injured early in that game as well. So a huge night for Notre Dame. Even though they gave up some yards, they bent it a little bit to with no Kyle. I mean, seriously, no Kyle Hamilton. You know the whole game plan was going to be built around him disguising, jumping around, doing all kinds of stuff with London. And you take out a top 5 NFL pick, and you're like, I mean, they're scrambling, and they did a heck of a job.
I just fired up this question. I don't understand why so many people had issues with Winbush, Malik Zaire, and Ian Book as run first QBs, but happy with Tyler. Anybody? Kai asked, I mean, that's another question. I could see where you're coming from. The thing is that the difference between the 4 quarterbacks you just mentioned is the first 3 were starters. And so they get, when you're the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, you are under a lot of criticism. And I think, like everyone says, the most popular guy on the roster with fans is the backup quarterback often. I think next year when Tyler Buckner presumably is the starter, you're going to he's going to be subject to a lot of criticism. So,
if Buckner's starting, what are they going to be asking about? Where's Drew Pine?
Yeah,
I mean, what if they get the LSU guy? What if they get the LSU commit to sign at ND? Everyone's going to be talking about Walker Howard. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But probably people weren't happy because in some of the key games, it wasn't their running ability; it was their passing ability at times. So, and real quick with Malik was really injured. Malik was really never a guy at Notre Dame. So,
I mean, he got hurt. After which game did he get?
Texas.
In the Virginia game, right?
Yeah, in the Virginia game where, that's the famous Deshaun to Will Fuller with 30 seconds left to win that game. So, when you talk about Zaire, it's the LSU bowl game. He had the great game at that, the unbelievable game against Texas. And that wasn't a run first. You go back and watch that film. He's slinging that thing all over the place. So
that's right.
Those guys could throw the ball.
Craig asked, love the offense today, but thought the defense took a step back. Your thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, once again, the offense came out. Had a great rhythm. Other than that 3 and out, I think they started 3 and out to start the game, and then the same thing in the second half. So other than that, the first drive they got going, it was the second half one. But I thought offense was great again because they had the tempo going. They had movement going. They had 5 offensive linemen playing together. Which was nice. And obviously you get Michael Mayer back in as well. And defense, it just felt like a sluggish night. Look at the stats there, right there. The SC drive charts. You got a 60, a 60, 2 50s, 70, and an 86.
Yeah.
I mean, SC was moving the ball. So you only got, how many 3 and outs? Just the 1 3 and out.
Yeah. And that's a span of 7 drives right there. I mean, that they're
exactly.
Yeah. I thought Notre Dame was getting tired in the second half.
Because they're giving up first downs. Look at the yards again. They're giving up. You go back-to-back drives where you're up 24-3 and you go out there and you give up 9-play, almost 80-yard drive. Come on. That's when you just got to put the nail in the coffin and be like, let's finish this thing. And they let SC go straight down the field and obviously scored. ND comes right out. Boom, nothing. SC gets right the ball, goes right down again. So, defense was a little shaky, but that goes back to probably the hidden story. It's not so much hidden. We haven't mentioned much about it. And really the broadcast mentioned it at times, but not that much. You lose Kyle Hamilton, who's going to be a top 5 NFL draft pick. So,
I don't have too many complaints about the defense. I wouldn't agree that they've taken a step back. Keaton Slovis, by the way, speaking of the NFL draft, is going to have a highlight film that's as good as any passers in the country. He's got a lot.
Oh, he can throw.
He's got a professional arm. Yep. Drake London.
Look at Breeze. Exactly. I'm sorry, Greg. But look at Breeze. When Breeze was breaking down some of the film tonight, look how quick he was reading. Unbelievable. Just boom, boom, boom. There was 2 highlights that Breeze showed, which was his 4th read, and he's hitting the 4th read. So he is drilled and coached really quick to get rid of that football. And a lot of his passes are just quick quick shots right now, but that's the air raid. The air raid's all about grass, so to speak. They're just finding spots. They don't care about anything other than little spots on the field, and that's what they're attacking. So I thought Slovis played his tail off. It goes back again. They're down 24-3, and those guys did not quit. It's a rivalry game. At the end of the day, you held an explosive offense with, a guy who's going to win the Biletnikoff trophy.
Yeah.
I mean, just give it to him. And, even though he had 15 catches, they only had 16 points. They had a missed field goal and obviously the big interception by Bill Bauer.
Yeah, I think the one critical thing I'd say about the defense is that the tackling on the perimeter wasn't good. Clarence Lewis had a tough night tackling, no doubt about it. And Drake London isn't easy to tackle, but he missed a tackle on Taj Washington that again, it almost looked like that that Cam Hart play against Virginia Tech where the ball was floating to the receiver and he just didn't judge the timing on whether he can like get up there and light the kid up or if he need to break down and tackle, and they just blew the tackle.
Well, Cam Hart had a horrible, I wrote on my notes, horrible tackle as well. It looked like, bam, he had him down for, a loss. I think there was one play, one of the DBs literally had a TFL on a play and boom, let him go. And the guy breaks off for a 12, 13-yard play. So, things happen. I don't think they were great. I heard Brian Kelly after the game raving about, Tariq Bracy today playing the nickel, but they had to play a lot of nickels and stuff of that nature. And sometimes, try not to be too negative, but you got to be a realist is that defense without Kyle Hamilton, it's sprinkled with a heck of a lot of 3-star DBs if you want to get into recruiting. So there's not a lot of top flight talent, which the SEC is out there trying to get that's playing out there. And at the end of the day, it is true, but those guys held SC to 16 points.
Yeah, and it's a credit to Notre Dame's program that they're able to develop those guys to the point where they can absorb an injury to that great of a player. I mean, when DJ Brown was involved, the overturned penalty, or excuse me, targeting, if he goes out, I think they have to go to Xavier Watts, I want to say, at safety. And you're talking about...
Well, they were playing Isaiah Pryor, actually. Isaiah Pryor was playing safety.
Yeah, they moved him back. I mean, it was... that would not have been a good situation, but it was definitely... I just think about where Notre Dame would have been 12, 13 years ago, losing their best player on any given side of the ball. I mean, and how do they perform after that in that situation would not have been good. And, credit to Notre Dame, their coaches and the way they develop kids they were able to do it. Tim McCarthy asked.
I agree. That's a great point.
I wish we would just keep a 4-man front on defense. I mean, they like to go multiple, and that's Freeman's nature.
That's what they're going to do. They're not going to just sit there and play 4-3 cover 2, or sit in the 3-4, like Bob Diaco did, and just sit and play cover 2 or cover 4, cover 4 quarters and just live in it like he did nonstop. They're going to bring it. I mean, the last play, the Foskey sack fumble that, the last play of the game there was a nickel blitz. They brought Bracy off the wide side underneath the tackle and whatnot. They brought 6 guys on that play. So they're going to bring it, when they can. To sit in just a straight 4-man front, is it probably their best? Yes, I think so. I think when they're sitting in a 4-man front and Foskey's on the edge and they're just going toe to toe and doing that, but at the same time, I think they're matching up. They match up. They go 4-1-6 dime. They're 4-2-5. They go their 3-3. They're bringing tons of stuff all over the place. So, and that's what Kelly wanted. That's what Marcus Freeman's going to do. Marcus Freeman's going to be a head coach someday, and that's his playing card. That's what he does. Is we're multiple, and we're going to bring it from all angles. So, that's what he does.
Please hit like on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please get involved with the comments, ask a question. We're for sale. If you super chat us, we'll definitely get to it. Another question from Nolan Sanchez, and why wasn't Cam Hart shadowing London the entire game? Our best against their best. Lewis looked like a bum. Can't cover. That's a harsh word. I think Clarence Lewis would tell you he didn't have the best tackling day, but still, Tim, go ahead.
I agree. Because one thing SC does is London's, on their left side 99% of the time. So where London's going to be. Did they motion him a little bit today and, gave him the shovel pass, and obviously on the one seam route that Bertrand got beat where he motioned, if you see, Notre Dame has two guys sprinting to London, and Bertrand's like, oh man, somebody help me. And he's getting beat on the seam. But I agree. That was one of the things coming into this game. Are you going to put your best corner, which, I think we'll say Cam Hart is their best guy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you just have Cam Hart in the boundary, you could do more 2-on-1 at times. But Notre Dame, I don't think did a lot of that. That's going to be one of the fun parts in going back watching this game and breaking down their defenses. It seemed like they played they did not go a heck of a lot of 2-on-1 on London quite often. A lot of his passes were those perimeter passes where, it was all 1-on-1. It was 3 DBs and some of the bunch sets that SC was doing, and they were just getting two guys blocking, and London was just going and getting some yards on his own. So Notre Dame did not play a conservative game plan of bracketing London all the time. They did sometimes, without a doubt, because Slovis wanted to go there, but they did not do it each and every play. They played a lot of 1-on-1 with London today.
Mm-hmm. PK4ND says, a good night to have 100 recruits on campus. The pregame thing looked awesome. Tim, what were your thoughts on that? It looked like they had that like the LED light thing finally, which I've seen in other stadiums. I'm not sure if Notre Dame's done that before.
No, I mean, that got me nervous. I know.
You're before the game. You're like,
as a football coach, it's I'm a creature of habit, and I was like, oh no, don't start doing something new you've never done, especially SC, because I always harken back to 2011, the first night game in 21 years, and the 1,000 recruits they had in 2011, and Notre Dame's doing all this hoot and holler and stuff, and they lost that game. So it was the same eerie feel for me, and a little bit at the beginning, but without a doubt, great night for recruits, just to see Notre Dame flying around, having fun, seeing some of the freshmen playing out there. If you're on that sideline, you're like, you got a left tackle playing, you got a running back in there. By the way, how about Diggs scooted off a nice first down run? You got obviously Styles making plays. There's some skill guys over there. Obviously Walker, being one of their commits, was on the sideline at wide receiver, seeing him make some plays. Colsey was out there quite a bunch as well. It was nice. It was nice. If you're those guys, definitely, like, I could play here and be in this atmosphere. It was an awesome atmosphere. Seeing some of the videos and the pictures on Twitter that guys were posting was pretty cool. Especially one shot real quick, NBC, where they showed all the recruits. I mean, it was just a mob of guys over there. So I'm sure Notre Dame's having a nice barbecue for those guys tonight.
I posted this on the screen, a comment from Derek Matthews. We talked about Lorenzo Styles earlier, but I want to bring up one point in the game. I thought Tommy Rees did a really good job of play calling when Kevin Austin had that drop. If you recall, the next drive, he goes right back to Austin for an 8-yard gain. And then he calls that like slip pass to Kyren Williams, where Kevin Austin's the main blocker on the outside. He just has him do something physical that I think helps a kid who might be a little down on himself get reoriented into the game. And I thought that kind of jump-started the offense a little bit too. They go down, score a touchdown, and Austin plays okay from there. But I get your point. I mean, Lorenzo Styles, played for a great program in Ohio, Pickering Central. I mean, if any freshman is going to be ready to go, it's a kid like him. And now that we're 7 games in, I think we'll see quite a bit more from Lorenzo Styles.
Yeah, and it's not so much play over Austin. I mean, we were talking about this week.
They need more guys.
Austin. I mean, people always talk about Austin like he's this ready-made guy. People are talking about him for the NFL. No, that's the guy that needs to come back, is Austin, and just keep playing and developing. I mean, seriously, this is the most football he's played since his senior year in high school. I mean, he's been hurt, suspended, hurt. Now he's playing. So he is not 100% ready.
Yeah. Thomas Kemp agrees with you, Coach. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and Kevin Austin looks like that, like he kind of jumped a little bit at the ball when he caught him. He just like, he looks like he just needs to calm down and focus, but we've seen him make enough big plays this year where he's still a guy.
Exactly. Well, this is a great, comment here from Thomas real quick. It's true. At the end of the day, you read the recruiting things, and this guy should do this guy should do that. He's a senior who's not played a lot of football at Notre Dame. This is his first time being the man. And at the end of the day, when you look back, he has made a heck of a lot more plays than he hasn't.
Right.
Has he dropped some? Has he missed some? Yes, because that's the inconsistency. That's the plan. That's being gone. I mean, seriously, for 3 years. And the guy's a broken foot twice,
Yeah.
and he's coming back and playing. So has he missed shots? Without a doubt. But he has made some big-time football plays for this team this year.
Yeah, he just needs more reps too. And we talked
Yes.
about that first back shoulder throw attempt where he just didn't get his body turned around. And it just looked like he's got the athleticism and the fluidity to turn his body and get his hands out and make that catch. He just needs more reps to get comfortable doing that. And then that one interception, that simultaneous catch that we didn't mention earlier, but that was an inaccurate throw from Jack Cohn too. I mean, that needs to.
Yeah, I mean, he throws it inside, but that's a killer. You know, you could tell Brian Kelly was just, he wanted to take it because they had such momentum going on that drive. That was a great Notre Dame drive. Couple first downs, moving the ball. They get a penalty, PI. I mean, they're moving. Boom. They're trying to, I mean, what they had the ball inside the 20, just trying to take a nice, shot play, or I think 35-ish or whatever, trying to get it inside the 20.
Right.
And it was a pick. I mean, it was a great play by Chris Steele, number 8 is what it was. That guy made a heck of a interception there, but Austin's fighting for the ball. They both land. The referee on the NBC broadcast flat out said that should be Notre Dame's ball. They both have it on the ground. They both have it on the ground, but 4 hands are on that football. So that was an interesting take how it was reviewed, which Mike Tirico did say, and they just left it as is. That was a big turning point right there too.
They must have reviewed that quick too. I thought that was a curious.
Well, there's a commercial. I believe there was a commercial.
Was there?
Break.
Okay.
Well, it's NBC, so of course there's going to be a commercial break. So
we should mention the game. I think the total runtime on the game was only like 3 hours and 7 minutes. I want to say the game ended at 10:44 Eastern.
But there was a flow. There was a flow to this game. I mean, there was a rhythm. Even in a game where both teams threw the ball 30 times and whatnot, but there was catches, quick passes. The clock's constantly moving. There wasn't. The quarterback's around 50% completions, which is just killing clocks, killing drives. I thought there was just a constant flow and a really good rhythm to this game tonight on both sides.
Yeah, it felt like I was watching an NFL game in terms of
exactly
how quick it was flowing. Thanks again, Tim McCarthy, another super chat. And this is a good segue into looking ahead a little bit. He says, this win feels like the turning point of this season to me. We figure out how to get Cohn productive with up-tempo. We use Buckner correctly. And KW, I mean, Kyren Williams, he's referring to, I imagine, with the great game. But, and Tim, we talked about that. What do we think Notre Dame worked on during the bye week when they do self-scouting? And I think the first thing we talked about was tempo on offense.
Yep.
And then, I don't know how many strides they made on defense in terms of just getting settled in. But as another commenter pointed out, USC still, at the end of the day, only scored 16 points.
Only scored 16. And really, Notre Dame, it looked like, played the same D. I mean, they got their package. They got their core group. They got their nickels, their dimes, their multiple fronts, bringing guys all over the place. One thing they did not do tonight was blitz a lot. He has brought the heat. Marcus Freeman has blitzed a ton this year. They only did it a handful of times, and only a few. Because how many times have we seen White and Bertrand running the AA crisscross blitz? You didn't see that much. The one touchdown, Drew White blows up the A-gap. Horrible fit by J.D. Bertrand, where Ingram just walked into a touchdown. Horrible fit by him on that blitz. But not a lot of blitzing. I thought, if anything, defense was just like, hey, let's go play, keep everything in front of us, and roll from there.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, to keep as many people back just to tackle Drake London. I mean, just make sure
Oh, without a doubt. 20 targets. 20 times that guy's going there. That's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Notre Dame coaches were like, if he catches 15 passes for 150 yards, then so be it.
The 2 touchdowns, they were Ingram, correct?
Yeah, hold on, I'll bring it up right here.
Yeah, it's like, as much as we talk about
the other running back, Barlow, but
exactly. No touchdown. Seriously, you go back into this game. Yeah, Barlow, the other running back, but you go back into this game and you got Slovis, who can throw. He's going to be on an NFL roster next year.
Yeah,
you got a first round draft pick and Drake London. A lot of the NFL mid-season draft things had him in the top 5 in like 3 or 4 of the mock drafts that you look at and things of that nature. No touchdown passes. So not bad. I know we were just I mentioned the sprinkle of 3-stars all over the place from Lewis, Bracey, Hart. Hart's was recruited to play wide receiver. Henderson, obviously Brown, Houston Griffith, even though he was a highly ranked kid, hasn't done it. Houston Griffith's just like Kevin Austin. Both those guys, highly recruited, tons of hype, tons of pub. And this is their first year. They've really been main guys for Notre Dame as seniors.
Yeah, just to build on Mr. McCarthy's question, his super chat. And I agree that this is a way to really approach the rest of the year with the realistic idea that you can go 11-1. Is USC the best team out of their final 6? I don't know. I still think that road trip to Stanford is going to be tough, but they just keep.
Well, you still got Virginia.
Hey,
every game. I'm serious. Every game. Notre Dame's got talent to beat everybody. You got UNC, what's UNC going to be their 7th straight team they played with a bye. Don't you just love this scheduling, by the way, with the ACC? It's like, darn well they're just like pinpointing everything around Notre Dame, and then they just throw the rest out.
Yeah.
But
quick thought on BK's halftime speech. I saw.
I loved it.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. NBC showed it there as they're coming, but no, he was Brian Kelly back in 2011. It seemed like he was fired up, man. He was getting after it. But you know what? He was challenging his team because how in the world are you not up 28 points?
Yeah.
It was right there. It was right in front of him. He challenged them to play physical, hard-nosed football, go out and take this thing, which they did early on. And then obviously SC came back, but then they did finish it. What a drive. Seriously, when you're down, when you're struggling, it seemed like, because SC had all the mojo in the world, and then Notre Dame goes right down on a 75-yard drive to just take it right back from them. That was huge. But Brian Kelly challenged them, and he was fired up. But you could get a little fired up when you're winning at halftime and you got 100 recruits in there. He was showing those guys a little bit of the Notre Dame spirit in that locker room as well. He's trying to get those recruits.
Yeah, when that was segues into Justin Nagel's super chat. Thank you, Justin. He's just talking about Drake Bowen here, who is a class of 2023 in-state target from the Maryville area. That's Northwest Indiana. Says, I love seeing him intentionally bring his little brother on all of his trips. Kid better become a player and follow him to Notre Dame. Sure. I'm first off, they want to get Drake Bowen, and his commitment is coming up here in the next couple weeks. I think November 7th. And I think he's down to Notre Dame. Clemson's in there. Mike Singer's
in Auburn.
And
I saw Auburn. Yeah. At Auburn. Yeah. He was there tonight. You got to assume he's going to be an ND guy, but that's 2023.
Yeah.
There's a whole season to do next year before you start getting hyped up about him coming in August of 2023. So a lot of football at Notre Dame between now and then. But he's unbelievable. I texted Mike Singer the other day, just watching some of his film, that he's outstanding. My gosh, that guy can play.
Yeah.
He's a really good football player.
Yeah. Yeah, and Notre Dame has 21 commitments in the class of 2022. So those are kids who are in their senior years right now. Someone asked earlier who's most likely to commit coming out of this weekend. I think everyone's watching Billy Schrauth from Wisconsin, the offensive lineman, whose recruitment's been a little hard to track. He doesn't give too many cues, basically, and I don't think
But real quick, and I know Mike handles all this stuff a ton and stuff like that. But that's Notre Dame. Once again, Notre Dame is this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere in South Bend.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get guys away from these massive state powers. They're going into Wisconsin, where Notre Dame rarely gets a guy, and pull him out of a state which, number one, produces NFL linemen on par with Notre Dame. So it's not like they're getting some scrum bum, you don't want to go to that state college. No, they produce dudes at the position that he plays at. And if they get him, he may be the best offensive guard commit in the last 4 or 5 years. Seriously, he's a stud on film. He is legit.
He looks like he could be a guard or a tackle. This kind of move towards recruiting kids that can play all positions on the offensive line. He seems to fit that. Cool stat, Tim, about getting offensive line recruits out of Wisconsin in the Rivals era. So that goes back to the class of 2002,
Mhm.
there have been 12 kids, 12 prospects rated 4 stars or higher that are offensive linemen from the state of Wisconsin. Out of those 12, Wisconsin has signed 11 of them. So
Yeah.
they are really hard to beat. And for there's 3 of them this year in Wisconsin. It's a banner year for offensive line recruits.
Yep.
For Notre Dame, just to get one of them is
I
pretty.
remember when they were recruiting was it the Weiss years when they were recruiting the heck out of Josh Oglesby,
Yes.
that giant offensive tackle who was just a stud.
Yeah.
Indy thought they had him, ends up going to Wisconsin and
Yeah.
does what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be curious, who was the last Wisconsin guy I remember is Greg Pauly.
Yeah. So Ben Bredesen was one. He played for, I believe, for Heartland Arrowhead.
Michigan.
And he went to Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, Michigan. But I'm talking about the Notre Dame. Who was the last great Wisconsin football player? Greg Pauly was
Greg Pauly was one of my former high school teammates. Brian Bidash was the last Wisconsin recruit to be signed by Notre Dame, and that was, well, I'm dating myself, 20 years ago but I saw Josh Oglesby at St. Francis High School, visited him. It was like the off season, and it was Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I think USC was maybe the third team. That was during the Pete Carroll years, and he was definitely a Notre Dame type kid, super sharp.
Yeah,
he was huge. Him and Chantrell Henderson are still like the
Chantrell Henderson. Yes,
yeah.
That's Michael Floyd's school, right?
Yeah. And those are the 2 probably most physically impressive offensive line recruits I've seen going around the country. Ohio State signed a kid. I'm forgetting his name. He's an in-state kid. It might have been Chantrell Henderson's year. That was pretty. I think his name was Adams. Just a crazy big kid. But anyway, yeah, Notre Dame lost out to
the biggest Adams I've ever seen is memorable Flozell. So that's just we're going back in the old heyday Notre Dame guys that they've gone against.
Was there even internet at that point?
Oh my God, you remember Flozell Adams, the massive Michigan State guy?
Yeah,
I think he was a Nick Saban, and they were just pounding the heck out of Bob Davies teams.
Chris Ayers is driving a conversation in the chats about what happens with a 1-loss Notre Dame team. Are they in the playoff? Where they go? I mean, I think a New Year's Six bowl. But the reality is that it doesn't seem like there's really more than 3 or 4 really good teams in college football this year. We'll see how Ohio State progresses through the year. Michigan still rolling. But Cincinnati looked vulnerable today against Navy. They were in trouble for a while. Obviously, Georgia looks great. Alabama's going to come back. But there's not a really deep group, it feels like. So it would be interesting to see if, an 11-1 Notre Dame team could at least be in the discussion.
Oh, sure. I mean, you just play the games and you just keep moving up. I know everyone talks about 2019 when they didn't move up much. Well, no one lost. If you go back and look at the final rankings, I mean, there's 12 teams with 1 loss. Notre Dame, I mean, first off, Penn State lost. Have you ever watched, and by the way, I forgot the rules change where it just becomes a 2-point game. Yeah. That was the weirdest 20 minutes I've ever watched football today, where no one could get 3 yards for a half hour. That was really bad football.
And there was switching sides and switching sides. It took forever. They need a replay.
It was bad football. That was really bad football. It was bad. But Penn State lost. Who else? There was a handful of ranked teams that lost. Obviously, Oregon had a great game. I watched a lot of that today with UCLA. UCLA almost pulled that out at the end. But there was a handful of teams that did lose. And the other thing, the Big Ten's all going to just beat each other up here in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Michigan State has Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. You know what I mean? They all are going to just start smashing each other here in the next 3 weeks.
I know the day started off with there was 4 top 10 teams playing unranked opponents, and they were all either losing or barely.
I thought somebody else lost today.
Yeah, I'm looking through the score. I'm reaching at my computer, looking through the scores right now.
No, I got you. And Notre Dame's going to move up. If Notre Dame finishes 11-1, they're going to be a top 8 football team this year.
Yeah. Oklahoma State lost to Iowa State.
There you go. That was the big upset I saw there. So there's 2 teams ahead of Notre Dame that lost. Notre Dame has to just keep winning. Sure, they don't have the great schedule, so to speak, but if you go on the road and win at Virginia, who's playing really good football with Bronco Mendenhall, and then that last game is always the trickiest one, right? Stanford.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
you
a
go
long
back to 2015, all they had to do, people always forget about the face mask that Isaac Rochelle had that gave him those extra 15 yards, and then the worst pass defense on the next play. The great Brian Van Gorder D.
Yeah.
That's that game where Deshaun Kaiser scored too fast and let them go. And then obviously 2017, Notre Dame's going down there and go and lose that game. So it's been a tough place for Notre Dame to finish.
Miami beat 18th ranked North Carolina State 31-30 today.
Did not see that. Nice.
Notre Dame fans obviously know the relevance of a 31-30 score in a game involving Miami.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hey, but real quick, if they go 11-1, I keep hearing, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to go play Pitt in the Orange Bowl? Is that going to be the game?
It could, that could be. It could also be, as far as the ACC and television viewings, a disaster for their title game. I mean, they're looking at Wake versus Pitt right now.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what. I hope Michigan goes 11-1, Notre Dame 11-1, and let's meet in the Fiesta Bowl.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I've heard some. I saw that in an article talking about some of the scenarios, and I'll be like, ooh, that would be awesome.
We'll answer this from Jackson Everett real quick. It was said on the NBC broadcast 100, and I don't doubt that at all. There's often a lot of recruits that very last second come in unofficially. They can get a pass, but the number of really sincere might not be the best word, but serious targets for Notre Dame, as far as like officials and unofficials, guys are offering guys they really, really like, we thought at least 37, probably more than 40. So, I mean, it was a weekend.
Well, real quick. I didn't, if Mike's watching, post this in the chat, but it's like, I mean, they had the Santa Margarita D tackle was there, I believe, what is it, Canoe?
Yeah, Kanu.
Kanu, excuse me. He's an absolute stud out of the Trinity League, the best football league in America. He is a man-child.
Yeah.
Unbelievable football player. And obviously they had the quarterback from Louisiana, Walker Howard, there.
Yeah.
I don't know if any other major targets were there. Was Billy Schrauff, was this an official visit, or is it just his another visit coming back to finalize the deal, so to speak?
I don't. You have to ask Mike whether it was an official or not. He was expected to be on campus, and the feeling is that was in Wisconsin's favor for a while, and maybe Notre Dame is making a comeback. Anthony Lucas, another 2022. He's another interior D line, maybe strong side DN type from Arizona. He was expected to be in, so him and Hirokanu combined. I'm trying to think of any other 2022s. You mentioned Walker Howard, Billy Schrauff. I mean, those might be. Notre Dame, like we said, already has 21 commitments. I mean, they would take another wide receiver. Emil Wagner, the offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Was also
he was there, and I know Walker was there, the wide receiver commit.
Yeah, so Morian Walker.
Up and keep him away from Harbaugh, so that'd be nice.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, we're running late. It's late, certainly on the East time zone where Tim and I reside. So, Tim, it was a lot of fun, man. Notre Dame wins again, 31-16. It's 5 in a row at home against USC, 4 in a row overall. I remember the days when the Pete Carroll days when it was blowout loss after blowout loss. So,
but I also remember the Lou Holtz days when they just went and just handled business and took care of things, and those are the glory days. I mean, they've each had their glory days there, both sides and whatnot. But how about Brian Kelly, 8-3 now against SC, which is the exact opposite of Era. Era was 3-8.
Wow.
His old nemesis against hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
3-8 against Coach McKay and SC.
And he just basically beat everyone else.
Exactly.
Maybe I think Purdue he had a rough time with Purdue, I think, maybe a year, right?
Yeah, well, Purdue was the spoiler makers for a handful of teams there in the 60s. But Joe Theismann was on at halftime. I was hearing him talk in the background. He was talking about some of the SC games, which is interesting because, I never really put this together, but, 2 ties in this rivalry. Joe Theismann's part of 2 of them, the 2 ties.
Yeah.
So how interesting is that? So,
yeah. Well, many Fighting Irish households enjoying the crack late into the morning, crack, an Irish term for good times. just so you know.
Oh yeah, no, great. Hey, overall, great win.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up, like you're saying, O-line played. I mean, great night of offense. I mean, rushing 170 yards is outstanding. Some couple big plays on defense. Cone, I mean, all this QB talk. I've mentioned it 100 times. When we've talked and we've done some videos post game and on our Friday thoughts of, once again, they recruited him for a reason.
Yeah.
They needed him for a reason. And he has produced. I mean, the guy has produced some big moments for them. And now the guys are going to be enjoying this thing. And let's get ready for another big night game against North Carolina and a heck of a quarterback next week.
All right, Tim, we'll next see you on Friday. Yeah, previewing the North Carolina game for our final thoughts. And then we'll be on late at night after that game. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this video in a replay, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and we will see you all soon. Thanks.